Do you know how hard I worked to get here? I built this shit. Me. Brick by brick.
Hey, what is up guys? Sammy filming another commentary video. I've been really enjoying making these type of videos, so yeah, I'll be doing show recasts, but I've been kind of like having a hard time finding a show that's grabbing my attention. Like MILF Manor is definitely grabbing my attention, but I also am into making commentary videos as well. But if you're new, subscribe, like this video, comment, check out my other videos if you haven't already. Make sure you check out my podcast, Pretty Open-Minded. It's on YouTube and on Spotify. Check out my socials. If you're not keeping them, you're missing out. And everything's linked down below. And turning post notifications. I don't know if I said like and comment on this video, but make sure you do so. It helps me out a lot. And yeah, so we're gonna be talking about why Gen Z, and I'm gonna be talking about millennials too, but why Gen Zers are going no contact with their parents. I actually got the video inspired by manfrotto. I'll put the picture on the screen. I watched it the other day and I really enjoyed it, so I was like, why not make one myself? He made a lot of good points, and I also noticed that a lot of people also make these type of videos, so I was like, you know what, why not? It seems like there's always a new video that comes out on why kids are, well, adult children are choosing not to talk to their parents, and a lot of people are starting to speak out about their experience with their parents and the harsh treatments that they endured with their parents. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit nervous to talk about it because I can definitely resonate with this. Not to prove anything, this is not to bash him, this is just me talking about my own feelings, what I've endured for the last 22 years. I've been 24 for 2 weeks now, and it's been 22 years of emotional abuse. I'm gonna be talking about that. It's not really easy for me to do. I've been in therapy for it, in and out of therapy for it since I was like 17 to 20 something years old. I make little videos about it here and there. That is just my way of expressing myself. Very interesting. I always watch people that choose no contact with their parents because noticing it more and more, and it's very sad. It's not like something to clap about. It's honestly really sad. This video will be discussing the topics of going no contact with people's parents. I'll be putting videos in here saying my thoughts on it. So I also want to add that, you know, going no contact is not an easy thing to do. No kid doesn't just stop talking to their parent for no reason. There's always a reason. I feel like the lighting is so crappy today. Is that better? I don't know if that made it better or worse. I don't know. I don't think that made it better. There's always a reason on why kids choose to go no contact. There is just always a reason. There's often a lot of signs of it, like they give them chances after chances, or they're just tired of enduring emotional or physical abuse.
Now I choose me and my sanity and my peace of mind. And if you as a parent want to be a part of your adult children's lives, you have to show up the way they want you to show up. You no longer have, you know, the power in the relationship. You can't hold their survival over their heads. Yeah, when we needed you to eat and live and to survive, of course we had to stick around and deal with your bullshit. But once we don't need you anymore, what's left is the relationship that y'all cultivated or lack thereof.
Talking about the first video that I'm putting in. So in this first video from No Niche Zone, I actually saw it firsthand from manfrotto or whatever. A lot of good points in this video. She said that she was basically like fed up with the treatment of her parents, and she decided to go no contact or low contact with them. She said that she believes that like millennials were first to start this movement of deciding to speak up about their parents' abuse. So many videos that people have made, and they are a mixture of Gen Z and millennials, and every one of the videos that I've watched I have agreed fully, especially with this one alone. I feel like the whole clip, the 4-minute video, was such a perfectly perfectly worded on how a lot of people feel, because She was saying how, like, after the clip that I ended or whatever, she was saying that you need to sit with that, you know, they're making you feel guilty for choosing this. It's like, I have noticed that when people are like, oh, I'm going no contact with one of my parents, people are always like, why would you do that? Who does that to their parent? Like, what if they die? I'm sure they did their best. And it's just basically like a lot of gaslighting and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I'm telling you, like, people don't know like what happens behind the closed doors. Like, it doesn't just happen out of the blue. It's actually like a lot of like therapy and a lot of like what is it called, you give them a lot of chances. There's like a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that you guys don't see, but you guys are just seeing like, well, they went no contact, so like you must be the shitty daughter. There's been a lot of people that blame the kids for their shitty parent like relationship with their parents, and I'm just gonna say this now, it is not your fault. Like, literally, people will guilt trip the fuck out of you for your choice, but as long as it saves your sanity and helps your mental health, like, anything is worth it if it helps your mental health, honestly, because it's literally so messed up how people are. And it's normally like the older generations that are like, why would you do that? Who does that? But I feel like when I was looking at all these videos, I wasn't trying to make it a race issue, but I did notice that it was a lot of Black people that were video after video after video like saying like, I want to go no contact with my parent. And I could see why. I have grown up in a lot of like Black movies, and a lot of the movies that I would watch are toxic. I think I should use Everybody Hates Chris for example. I think people are starting to pick up on it because I remember seeing a post on TikTok maybe a couple months ago that Rochelle is the toxic mom. She was a toxic mom, and I could see why. Okay, she treated Chris as like the stephead, like redheaded stepchild, and then she treated Drew and Tanya as like the saints, the angels. They never did anything wrong. Whenever Chris did anything that was slightly wrong, or did something that was just like the same wrong things that Tanya and Drew do, he got way worse punishment for it. And it was a lot more harsh on him versus the other two. Like, yeah, they got yelled at every now and then, but it was never to the degree of how Chris was treated. And yeah, like Chris Rock was good at making it a joke, but he was not only getting abused in his household, but he also was getting abused at school. He was getting ridiculed for being the only Black kid in school, but also he came home and he was also getting ridiculed over there and getting nitpicked and getting emotionally abused over there. Like, there was a lot of screaming on that show, and I liked it at first growing up because it was funny. Like, I thought it was funny, but then I actually started listening to it in my sleep because I played it one time in my sleep, and I was like, wait, like, this is really a toxic show. Like, I don't know why it took me so long to figure it out, but people were like, Rochelle's not toxic, Rochelle's not toxic. That's because you guys are just so used to like the jokes, and you guys are just used to the abuse and what you've endured. You're seeing it through like rose-colored glasses. We saw it as like a humorous, funny Black show that was about a Black family in Bed-Stuy, New York. But when you really think about like the real real linguistics of the show, and actually like hear what Chris is saying, because he narrates it perfectly. I mean, it's his life that he's narrating, but it's a very good example of what a lot of people probably go through in their household, being treated that way. And you know, if they ever made more seasons of Everybody Hates Chris and he was like, you know what, I'm gonna go no contact with my parents, I would get it, because his dad didn't protect him. He didn't tell him, like, he rarely ever said like, yeah, you're being too hard on him. And Rochelle was always like making excuses and trying to make him look like the bad kid. And then when there was this one episode that was like, you know, he was tired of the like mistreatment, he was getting older. I think he was like maybe in his early teens. I know when he first started he was like 11 or 12, but I think at this point he was in high school, and he was like saying that he was tired of it. And then she's like, you know what, you know, now that you're tired of it, I am going to strip you of your basic rights. You're not going to be using my shower, you're not going to be using my food or anything. And then when he started buying his own food and started doing his own thing, she was like, like she was like making a lot of like unnecessary comments, and it was just like making fun of him and belittling him. And then he was like, well, I did buy my own stuff, so I am using my own, like I paid for all this stuff, like you don't have to belittle me and all that stuff. So I'm sure that like it's frustrating. I've noticed that a lot of Black families like to dangle, oh, I gave you shelter, I gave you food, I gave you this, I gave you that, like in for a ticket to abuse you. And like, yeah, you gave him food, you gave him shelter, you gave him all that stuff, but it's not an excuse to abuse your child. Those are just basic human needs. You need those things to survive as a human. Like, I don't get it. And also on top of that, they're the ones that lay down to decide to make you, and they're making it seem like, oh, you're a burden. You're a burden for needing things outside of those things. Oh, I need you to be there for my dances. Oh, I need you there emotionally, physically, you know, all that stuff. And they are not, they're like, wait, I only said I was going to give you food, shelter, all that stuff, clothes, all that. I didn't say that I was going to do any more of that. And it's very degrading, very frustrating. I remember as young as probably, I don't know, 9 years old, I remember like we were downstairs. I was in my 2-story apartment that I loved so much, but now I just am like, oh, dude, I really love it. But anyways, so I remember there was like this whole meeting downstairs, and my dad was like, okay, so write down how and ways like how I can be a good father, because I always compared him to my brother's friend's father, and my brother's friend's dad was very involved, and he was always there. And since they were both in the military at the time, I was like, wait, like I thought all people in the military just didn't have time for their kids. And I grew up around a lot of military kids because I was a military kid too. So I was like, okay, so how come his dad is always helping him? He helps his mom, and he plays games with them. He always tells them he loves them. And so I remember going to their house, always being like feeling really loved in their house. I always felt like very accepted there. I wasn't like feeling left out and like neglected. Like whenever I would go to their house, I always felt very loved there. They never treated me bad. And I was always going to their parties, and I always had fun. Like their family was always super sweet to my brother and I. And then when I would go to my house, it was like hell. It was literally like hell. Okay, so I was just like, how come let's think of a name, a fake name. How come Darren's dad plays with him whenever he's tired, and then whenever I ask you to play with me while you're tired, you're like, no, I don't want to play with you. Whenever I asked you to play with me, spend time with me, you would always be like, no. So we wrote down a bunch of things what he could do as a father. We did it we wrote it down, and we also emailed it to him. Okay, I was 9, so my brother was like 7 or 6 years old. I was like so excited because I was like, oh my god, he's gonna be a good dad. I'm like, he's really gonna like listen this time because we wrote it down. And this is me thinking as a 9-10 year old. Okay, this is not 24-year-old me. So I was like so geeked, and then I was waiting, and I was waiting, and I was waiting, I was waiting, and I was waiting, and I was waiting, and I was waiting for him to treat me good, for him to love me properly, for him to spend time with me. And that day never came. That day never came. He continued to neglect me. He continued to abuse me. And I was like, oh, okay. So we did it again. We tried it a couple of times, actually. We did this whole like thing a couple of times. It wasn't just one time. I think we did this little like family meeting thing a couple of times. And so we did it again. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited again, and I waited, and I asked him, well, when are you gonna spend time with me? okay? And he would just be like, I'm too tired, I'm too tired. And I get it, okay? He worked 3 jobs. I was little, we were living in San Diego, like it was expensive to live there, so obviously, like, yeah. But when I go to his house, Darren's house, he worked a bunch of jobs too, and he was tired. He was a very hard-working man, okay? They both were, okay? Those were the things. The only trait that I really truthfully liked about my dad was that he was a hard-working person. He did work, he did help us have a roof over our heads, but my mom also helped too. Just kind of noticed a pattern when I would go to his house, Darren's house, and my house. And mind you, also when I grew up, there wasn't a lot of dad figures, okay? There wasn't a lot of good father figures. I didn't grow up with a lot of positive male role models. The only male role model I really grew up with was Darren's dad and my grandpa. Those are the only 2 men that I really grew up seeing. Like, I didn't get to grow up around my great grandpa, but he was also a great man too. And where they're coming from, because I too gave him a lot of chances. And I think the time that I stopped giving chances was when I was probably a lot older. But I think I did it throughout my life. Like, I think I gave him a lot of chances throughout my life to, like, get his stuff together. But he also would use the excuse as, oh, I have childhood trauma. Everyone has some sort of trauma, and it's your job to fix it. Even though, like, your trauma is not your fault, and it's not, how do I say it? It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility to fix, okay? So you don't traumatize the next person, whether you're having kids with them or if you're in a relationship with them, whatever, you're friends with them, it doesn't matter. As long as you are not traumatizing the next person. Being like frustrated growing up, being like, okay, like, it feels like I don't really have a dad even though he's here. And whenever I explain it to people, they're like, what do you mean? Like, you had your dad, but you guys didn't have a good relationship? No, he was there though. Yeah, he was there, but he wasn't there for my needs. He wasn't there emotionally, he wasn't really there physically. He didn't go to events, he didn't go to a lot of things, because he was working, and he was always like never really there. It's really hard to explain, so I just was like, he was just very emotionally unavailable to me. It wouldn't be your responsibility, like the kid's responsibility, to try to mend the relationship with your dad, with your mom or dad, even though it's the parent that needs to do it. I'm sure we all have heard the phone goes 2 ways, and I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all, for many reasons, okay? I heard it firsthand last year for the very first time in my life, and I was like, dang. I've seen videos of people saying that their kids will be like 6 years old, and the dad will be like, the phone goes 2 ways. Your child is 6. It's supposed to be your responsibility to mend that relationship. It's not your child's responsibility, it's supposed to be you. But people are not ready for that conversation, okay? I didn't like that line. My mom heard it her life too. She heard it with her father, and he was literally never there. Like, literally never there. I just have his bloodline, that's it. I really don't know much about him other than the fact that he's been in jail. He's not a good person. I don't think he has good traits either. He's a little racist. He looks Asian sometimes, and then sometimes he looks Hispanic, but that's what he is, so it makes sense on why he looks like that. So whenever I looked at him, I was like, oh, okay. He looks very racially ambiguous, is what I'll say. And yeah, I don't really know much about him. He used to be a pimp. Yeah, that's about it. Like, there's not really much to say, but my mom heard it her life, and she was little, chasing him down, like, and he was just like, well, the phone goes 2 ways, and she was like 3. But it's not my story to tell when it comes to that man. I'm just saying from my point of view, what I've heard, what I've seen, what I've dealt with, you know what I mean?
No one ever wants to talk about this. Going no contact with the parent, or hell, even going low contact with the parent, is not something that people just do. That's not an easily made decision. It never has been. Like, anytime that I make any video about my mother, I will always get a comment from somebody that's like, well, I'm sure it wasn't that bad. You should just, talk to her. And it's like, you think I didn't already do that? You think I didn't try that already? You think we hit one bump and I was like, fuck you, bitch, just forever? What y'all have to understand is I never had a father. So my mother, that was my only parental figure. For me to make the decision to cut off the only parent I ever had when I already didn't have one, literally deciding to not have anything to do with both individuals that participated in creating me. That is an insane thing to do. And that is only done when that child has lived an insane life. A parent has to fuck you up bad in order for a child to finally be like, I don't want anything to do with them anymore. We love our parents. We do not want to be away from them. We do not want to go low contact or go no contact with them. That's not what we want to do. It got to the point to where it was either that parent or our sanity. And so we chose our sanity. And I know why it is. It's because people have so much more sympathy for the parents than they ever do for the children. It's always the children are ungrateful and never the parent just fucking sucks. But oddly enough, people can all of a sudden understand the concept of a bad parent when that parent murders their child. Then they're like, oh, well, some people just don't need to be parents. Yeah, my mom was one of them. I'm just still here to tell the story. That's why you don't care yet. Because if I'm still alive, obviously it just wasn't that bad.
There is this one video of this girl saying that her mom, she was choosing to not talk to her mom. And I can tell that it was very hard for her because she didn't have a father in her life. So she was just like, this wasn't an easy thing for me to do, but in order to help my sanity, I'm going to do this. I felt bad because I don't know what that feels like to not have neither parents. Like I feel like that can be so abandoning, like such an abandoned feeling. But if you're already feeling that in your home, like what is different? What makes it, like how worse can it get if you already feel abandoned and stuff, living in the roof with your mom? Tired of the maltreatment, this is not a normal thing to do. This is not a normal way to go on with your life, to constantly feel like you're on survival mode all the time. All I've known for the last 22 years is fear and survival. That is all I've known, and it's very hard for me to explain it to people because they're just like, well, you had your dad, you guys look like a happy family. Like, it's kind of crazy because we were like the family that people wanted, okay? Like, very happy family. I was happy with my mom. I had a really good childhood with my mom. And there's times where I even had resentment with my mom because I was just like, you could have done better. Like, I've talked to her about it, so it's not like this is news. This is not gonna be like when she watches this video she's like, oh my god, that's how you felt. No, this is not new. I had resentment with her several times because when I was tired of getting like abused by my father, I was just like, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you leave the first time you saw something? Why didn't you leave? And I hated that I said that, but I was just frustrated because it went on for too long. First time you see something that is off, please leave, because it only gets worse if you continue to stay. But anyways, but she made a point in the video where she was like, she mentioned how people often feel more sympathetic towards the parents versus the kids. The kids are often seen ungrateful. And I did really like that point because when I'm gonna go back to Everybody Hates Chris, okay? He was seen as ungrateful a lot too. Literally throughout the whole season, he was seen as the ungrateful, the bad kid, even though Tanya would do literally the most malicious things to him, and then he would be like, hey, she just punched me in the stomach or something like that, and she would be like, oh, she's just the only girl in the family, like, you know. But if he were to speak out about it, he would be seen as ungrateful. If he were to speak out about it now, he'd be seen as ungrateful. They won't see from like the parents' point of view that they can just be shitty. They ignore that fact a lot. I don't know why. Like, I don't know why people are just okay with people being shitty. Why are we settling for that? You know what I mean? Why are we seen as wrong and malicious and all these nasty things for choosing us? I don't think choosing us is a bad thing. And people could say how they feel until they turn blue, but choosing you will always be the right answer. And when I learned that choosing me was the right answer, I felt a lot better. I felt a lot of weight was lifted off my shoulders. And I was learning that, like, I don't always have to be on high alert when I leave the house. I don't always have to be scared all the time whenever someone talks to me. I don't have to be scared of every little thing, because I was taught at a young age to be scared of every little thing and to be quiet, okay? And then so when I started making videos of what I went through in my house, people were seeing, like, the video was posted everywhere. I think I posted it like 3-4 years ago, and I was just like, that was like my first indication that I was just like, I'm fed up, I'm tired. I think I was maybe 21 in that video. And it feels like it's a long time ago, but it really wasn't. I'm not like sure on why I did it, but I'm glad I did it. I think I was just really tired. And I was talking about how, like, I was just tired of being mistreated by my father. And, like, it was sent around his side of the family because everyone was shocked. But the thing is, like, there was always signs there. There was always signs there. And I could be going more into depth with how it was, but I don't want to. You know what I mean? If I come out with a video, then I come out with a video. If I come out with a book, then I come out with a book. Because I have considered coming out with a book, honestly. I felt like I was living in a facade. It felt like I was living not myself. I was always like super shy and super quiet, and people always said, oh, Kimana's super shy and super quiet. But I think honestly what it was is that I was scared. I think I was traumatized. So whenever I get like comments like, oh, you used to be super shy and quiet or whatever, I kind of don't like when people call me shy to this day, because I felt like it's kind of making me feel like a little girl again, and it makes me feel like I'm like that traumatized little girl again. But I don't feel like I was very generally shy. I feel like I just was I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel safe in a lot of places, and I didn't feel safe in my home, and I just felt very trapped. I knew that I could talk. I was just scared to talk. It's very quiet, like I was to myself. I had friends growing up, but I was always talkative with them. I was very talkative to people I was very, very comfortable with. But like when it came to people at home, like when I came to home and stuff like that, like I was quiet. And there was definitely little signs, because I had very bad separation anxiety. I had very bad just anxiety in general. Like I've always had anxiety since I was 4 years old. I've had really bad anxiety, and I didn't understand why. My mom always blamed it on herself, and she was like, I think it's me, I think I gave it to you. But I think it's just, there was a reason why I always clinged on to her really, really tightly. I didn't ever want to leave her alone. Like I never liked leaving her alone and stuff like that. So I was just like, there is a reason for that. There had to be a reason for that, because I don't like, it's not just normal like kid like, oh, I'm clinging to my mom. It was just like, it was very bad. Like it was very like I was clinging my life onto her. Like I would never let her go whenever she would drop me off for school. I would cry all the time, and it was just like, that should have been the sign right there too, like something was up. Didn't ever want to leave her alone. And so I think what also helped me know that something was up, because my mom's friend told her to me for me that she was always very clingy to her mom too and stuff like that. And people used to like make it feel like it was weird, but I feel like there was a very valid reason. I think I just didn't know how to vocalize what it was. I have grown a lot as a person in the last few years. I feel like sometimes I can't even really watch old videos of myself on here, because I remember like the mindset that I had, because I was just like, oh my god, I was so like insecure and so like anxious all the time, and I still am that anxious person, but I'm trying to get it under control. I don't have it as much now, but I just was like, I think that talking about it helps. I learned a lot through therapy about narcissism. I still have a lot of work to do. I still feel like even though I get triggered and I revert back, I don't feel like it's necessarily like, oh, all the progress that I've worked on is going undone. I feel like it's still good that I'm aware of my triggers and that I need to work on things so it doesn't bother me. Choose to do that, you know. It's not, don't make yourself feel bad for it. It's for your mental health, and I don't think you should owe anyone anything when it comes to that. I think I'm gonna end the video here. If I will make a part 2, I will do that. I said a lot and it was a lot for me, like but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you like and comment on this video. If you want more videos like this, let me know. Comment your thoughts. I want to hear everything. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.